Well, good morning, and thank you for allowing me to come and be a part of your program here. I want to take a few minutes this morning to talk a little bit about sustainability. I'm a cattle producer, nothing more, nothing less. I'm a cattle feeder. Ron introduced us as being from Manhattan, Kansas. That's where our office is. Our feed yards are sort of in central Kansas. We have 12 of them. They're in central Kansas, and we have 7 in Nebraska. It's not a passive business for us, and we look at the opportunity for us to be sustainable from a business perspective long term, and it's going to require that there's going to be a few things that have to change in our business. And about 6 years ago, many of you have a real dear friend of mine. Many of you know that we lost a couple of years ago, Richard Gephardt from up near Tulsa. He and I became very close friends, and actually I ended up getting a corgi dog from him because I know his wife really well and she raises him. But when we got involved, he's a producer, a cow-calf operator up there, and a leadership role in the beef industry. And he had a connectivity with some large retailers in that role that he played. And he invited me to a meeting with perhaps the largest end user in our business. And they invited 3 of the largest cattle feeders in the country. We happen to be in that category. So this meeting we went to, we were sitting there and we were listening to this conversation about sustainability. And it was pointed out to us that there is going to be an expectation as a supplier. So now I'm a supplier. I'm no longer a cattle producer. I'm a supplier. I take a bit of offense to that, but that's okay. That's what we were labeled in this meeting. And the presentation went sort of like this. They said, now we want you, as a supplier, we want you to do these things. And if you do that, then we'll buy product from you. I didn't like the way that sounded a lot either. And some of those things, for example, they had an idea that because we use a lot of corn, that I had the ability to control or manage the producers that produce corn for us. They didn't understand that 85% of the corn that we use in our feed yards, I get from something called an elevator, right? And I don't know where those kernels of corn came from. But they felt like that I should know that and then, in fact, take that a step further and work with those producers to reduce their carbon footprint and figure out a way so that those corn producers would use less nitrogen. Well, my takeaway from that meeting was this was pretty scary. This was a big, big customer for all of us in the beef business. And so we decided at that point we're going to get engaged in the sustainability discussion, right? We're not going to sit on the sideline. We can't afford to because this could be driven for us or we can help drive it. And as a cattle producer, I think that that's a message I wanted you to hear as to why John Butler, why the Beef Marketing Group has become engaged in this initiative. I'm a third-generation cattle producer. And when I look at many definitions that are used for sustainability, sometimes I've heard, well, I'm a third-generation cattleman, so in fact I'm sustainable. That may be one definition. That is not how I look at it. That is not how we look at it. For us, sustainability is about continual improvement. It's about identifying the resources that we use and figuring out ways that we can use them better. And I'm going to give you some examples of what those resources look like to us as we have participated in defining, you're going to hear me use the word indicators, but those are resources that we've got a chance to manage in the beef supply chain to really focus in on how we can do better. Now, my grandfather, he was focused on doing better. My father was focused on doing better. But just because I'm a third-generation cattleman doesn't mean that I'm sustainable, in my opinion, okay? So that's one of the things that we have to spend a little time on is really what is the definition of sustainability. And I'm going to try to shed some light here in the next couple of minutes of how we look at it. And we look at it in a very positive way, not in a threatening way. And I'll show you what that means to us and how actually we're getting engaged in some pretty exciting projects that's we believe that at the end of it's going to show that we actually can be better, we can be more sustainable in the business, we can be more efficient. Those are the kinds of things that drive our interest in being involved in the roundtable and in this conversation. So the second point up here is really the definition that this group that we have become engaged in, the United States Roundtable for Sustainable Beef. This is sort of their guiding light for their definition of sustainability. And it says the U.S. is the trusted global leader in environmentally sound, there's three pieces here, environmentally sound, socially responsible, and economically viable beef. As a cattle producer, I'm concerned about all three of those. But the number one for me, let there be no mistake, is that third one. It has to be economically viable. So any of these initiatives that we talk about relative to, being more accountable from the resources we use for our industry, for my perspective, is going to be economically driven. The roundtable started about 2 years ago, shortly after this meeting that I told you about that I was engaged in. And since then, we've got an organization put together that we call multi-stakeholder. Multi-stakeholder, and these are new words for me, I promise you. But multi-stakeholder simply means that we've got interested individuals from every facet of the beef value chain engaged around a table, okay? Now, these are all logos. I don't intend for you to try to interpret what they are, but if you look at this, you've got all the packers. That would be sort of the top group. The middle group there, which is the largest group, which is an important point, are producers. So really, this is a producer-run, producer-driven organization. Then we've got civil society. This is sort of an interesting group, but a very, very necessary group as we are building direction relative to our responsibility as a roundtable. So we've got the Noble Foundation, we've got Nature Conservancy, we've got World Wildlife Fund, some not so common bedfellows, but we've got to have them at the table so that whatever we develop has credibility. If we just do it, I've learned this, if we just do it as a group of producers, then we're going to be a special interest group. And we're going to have a reduced opportunity for real credibility to really move this needle for our industry and more importantly for our product. And then that bottom group there represents allied industry, which are very, very critical. And I don't want to forget this group as you're looking to my right up here, the bottom right, the retail. So we've got the entire food chain, the entire beef chain represented at the roundtable. What have we done in the first couple of years? Okay, so we have formulated, we have assembled, we've had a couple of meetings, and really what we wanted to do was to design a bit of a roadmap around what are these, I used the word earlier, indicators that we will focus on, and then what will be the metrics, or how are we going to measure those indicators in each segment of the beef supply chain. Let me back up and explain that. So what we started with this round table of multi-stakeholders, we said, okay, what should we be measuring? We came up with 123 indicators. An indicator would be like water. An indicator would be animal welfare. An indicator would be efficiency, and an indicator might be, and actually is safety, worker safety. But we started with 123 and we had to funnel it down. And it took a while because we have all these multi-stakers. We had to get everybody to agree, which I'm not going to say we got full agreement, but we got consensus. But it's a very difficult process it's easy for me to say, well, it should be this. But I don't have the opinion of everybody, and it was essential that we have that so we maintain the credibility. So now we have 6 key indicators, all right? And now we're going to be building, this roundtable is going to be building, how are we going to measure those indicators by segment. So we identified these are the segments. We have cow-calf, probably represented by most of you all in here, in terms of your your role in the beef value chain. We have auction markets. We have feed yards, that would be my sector. We have packer processors, and we have retail and food service. So what we did is we said, okay, now we're going to look at these indicators. These are the 6 that we came up with. And I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, they are harmless. There is nothing about these that we should be fearful of or any kind of concern. These are things we are managing anyway. Animal welfare, efficiency and yield. That gets back to why we're doing this. You know, I'm not doing this because I'm a 3rd generation cattleman. I'm doing this because I want to be more efficient. And this entity is going to help us identify how we can do that. They're going to give us the tools, all of us, to identify how we can do that. Water resources, land resources, air, greenhouse gas emission, employee safety and well-being. These are the 6 that we came up with. And then to give you an example of what a metric is, because that was a new word for me also. But this is how we're going to measure those indicators. So the first one, animal health and well-being. I'm using this as an example so that if there's any concern about what we're driving here, first, we're driving it. It's not being driven by some black helicopter, Big Brother. We are, in fact, building this. But if there's a concern about having a BQA system, being BQA certified at the ranch level, and that being the measurement of the indicator, which is animal health and well-being, well, shame on us. If we can't at least become BQA certified, we are not being responsible stewards of these animals. That's why I show this example up here. We did not want to build indicators that would be way out here and have very vast measurements and framework around them. We wanted to start, let's walk before we run. But when you look at our industry, we have a big group of us that are BQA certified. We have a bigger group that are not. So that's the indicator there. Water resources. Okay, you at a ranch level, what does that mean to you? Is a grazing management plan or equivalent being implemented? You are innovative ranchers, in my opinion, and I'm not a rancher, but this seems to be something you probably have already, right? And all this is asking for is if you're doing this, and you can use the Noble Foundation to help you do it. If you're not, let's do it and let's say yes. Let's check that box that we are doing that. That is what this is about. And in and of itself, if you're doing this, you'll be motivated to do a better job next year because your grazing management plan will call that out. So the whole purpose I'm giving you these examples is to, one, show you the work that we're being done. Some of you that are more innovative probably are saying, well, geez, that's no big deal. But when you have to bring the entire industry along with you, this is a big deal. This is a big deal because we want everybody to participate at this level so that our industry can be more sustainable. I think that I've already mentioned this, talking about really what drives sort of the interest in the roundtable and the interest in sustainability. It's about continual improvement. And what is continual improvement? If we're here, first we got to measure that we're here, and how do we make that better? So when someone asks me the definition of sustainability, it's about continual improvement. I've even gone so far to say it's about doing more with less, becoming more efficient. Again, to me, it shouldn't be a threat. It should be considered an opportunity. As far as the roundtable goes, there have been some that said, you know what, the roundtable is going to become this big mother authoritative body and a policing agent for this sustainability initiative. That is not going to happen. We have come to the table and said, look, what we are going to do is we're going to build the tools in the toolbox, right? And then just like BQA, we're going to develop that material. So if it is a grazing management plan, we're going to help producers understand how to do that if they don't already have it. That's going to be a tool in the toolbox. Now, what we hope will happen is that from that, there will be what we call B2B relationships established. So that means business to business, right? And I'm going to pick on McDonald's because Townsend's going to be up here in just a minute. If McDonald's and if we want to really push very specific things around sustainability, then me and Townsend will develop a relationship that drives that. Right? I'm not going to be pushed into it, and neither is he. But with the toolbox, the opportunity exists for us to establish business to relationships and move forward with this sustainability initiative. So when we talk about things about being verified, third-party verified, you all have heard that. Well, that isn't what the roundtable's about. If businesses choose to go down that path and they want to have something that is verified, best management practices, grazing management plans, BQ, they can do that and do that third party, but it's going to be up to them to establish the bridges that justify that and the incentives to justify that. These are an example of the tools that we will be building. You're going to hear a little bit today about what we're calling a pilot project, which is really a very, very exciting development. Where we've taken the concepts established by the roundtable, and actually we want to say, okay, let's go try this. Let's go try this. And we've actually aligned, the Noble Foundation is playing an absolute leadership role in this, and we're going to put a supply chain together. And we're going to take your integrity beef cattle, right, who already have all these sustainability initiatives in place because of the good work that the Noble Foundation has already done. We're going to buy the cattle and feed the cattle in Kansas. We're going to harvest the cattle with Tyson, and ultimately that product's going to go to McDonald's. And what we're going to do is we're going to implement all those indicators and those metrics that we talked about to see if, in fact, how much we can improve, right? And I think, at the end of the day, the greatest opportunity in this pilot project will be learning. I'm not planning to make much money doing it. I know that is not our driver. Our driver is, if we connect the dots, how much can we learn? How much can we improve over what we traditionally would do, over conventional? And I think there's great opportunity there. I hope this sort of sheds a little bit of light on the roundtable, on the beef marketing group. And again, thank you to the Noble Foundation for having us up here to share a few words with you. Thank you, Ron.